remember recharging those batteries?
I did, yeah. But let's talk about Lewiston. I don't want to talk about batteries.
What do you want to know about Lewiston?
Well, what did you feel like when you moved into this gorgeous house?
You just told me what I felt like.
I mean, I know. Do you remember my house, Chantry Road in England?
Yeah.
Big, tall house, round staircase. To me, that was like Lewiston was to you.
And it was, yeah.
And it was just gorgeous.
You've been living in one-roomers or...
Yeah, you'd been living in a one-room apartment, a two-room apartment. You know, lucky to, as you say, when your parents moved into Waterloo, you had to build your own outhouse or in-house, bathroom inside. So, you know, this was, you were in Fat City now here. Middle of the war, 42, 43, and money was rolling in.
He was being made office manager.
Yep, sales manager, yes.
So all the young employees had been drafted, but he wasn't drafted because he had 2 kids. That's the only thing that kept him. Really?
Well, he went in the Coast Guard though, too, didn't he?
He was in the Coast Guard. You had to do something.
Something, yeah. So he was in the reserve, Coast Guard Reserve, yeah.
Right, and that only meant that he had to go to a meeting every Saturday night.
Yeah.
Or practice or something.
That meant if the Germans came over, took over the whole Great Lakes, they'd be fighting on the beaches in Detroit, which was highly unlikely. So, okay. But anyway, so you're back at or you moved into Lewiston. It had a gorgeous garden already. You've written about poppies and syringas and snowballs and lilacs and beautiful.
It was an old garden. See, at least 10 years old. I don't remember how old the house was, but it wasn't a brand new place.
Right.
It had been used.
It was established,
mature.
Yeah,
an established garden. But and so that was wonderful for me because I didn't know too much about gardens.
Well, and you say your new baby, Patty, was the sweetest thing. She was just adorable and sweet and lovely, and just like she still is.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Right. So she was the good child, and we kept. I communicated with her, right?
Right.
You always used to talk about that.
Well, you got her into trouble a lot, you know. If you wanted something done, you would get her to do it, you know.
Yes. Yes. But she didn't get in serious trouble because you knew.
Nothing happened.
Okay, so now you hadn't had pets before, I don't think. Maybe this was the start of your pet menagerie.
No, we didn't have any before that, I don't think.
But you got kittens or cats at Lewiston. I remember they had babies just before you moved out in 47 or 48. You remember any of those cats?
No.
Not really, but
No.
you did have cats, you know that.
I don't remember even having animals. I don't remember anything about animals.
Well,
Detroit. I know we always managed to get them.
Tigger and Sambo, do those names ring a bell?
Yes.
Dickie brought those home. Those were cats that he brought as kittens.
Right.
And they grew up. Those were the first cats in the family. Patty didn't play with dolls. And Nano came and visited a lot, right? Or maybe not?
Not really.
No.
If she came, he came too. But and then of course, what's her name? Dick's sister. I can't say her.
Booty or Margaret?
Yeah. Booty came a lot because it was, you know, kind of glamorous to come to Detroit, and she approved of the big house.
Oh, yep, absolutely.
And they scorned us when we were in a 2-room apartment.
Right.
But when we got this house, that was a different story.
Yes, and now Dickie was a successful businessman in Detroit, top of the pile. Yes, absolutely. And my best friend at that time was Jimmy Blaine. Do you remember him down the street?
Yes, I do. Three doors down the See,
Right.
and I remember his mother, and he was just a kid that you played with all the time.
Right.
But you started the school together.
Uh-huh.
You started the kindergarten. I remember the morning I walked down and picked him up and his mother on the way. And we took you down for the first day of school.
Richard School?
Huh?
The name of the school was Richard.
Richard.
Yeah. Yes. So, but then you entered in that period with me going to school where I came home with all the schoolhood diseases. They didn't inoculate or vaccinate you for any of those things at that time.
Oh, no.
Measles, mumps, chickenpox, whooping cough, all that stuff.
It just was assumed that before you got into high school that you'd have all those.
Hello? Hello? Oh, it's another one of those political things. A robocall. That was a robocall.
Right.
I thought it might be this very one we're talking about, lovely little sister Patricia. And at this time, well, this was the middle of the war, so you were getting blackouts in Detroit too.
Well, regularly we had to turn our lights off at night.
Mm-hmm. So like a 10 o'clock curfew?
Well, whenever
Or the time?
it would light up the city, you know. They didn't want any lights on in the city because then they could bomb it.
Right.
Easier. That was a nice thought.
Yeah.
But that's the way we were thinking.
Well, and you don't know. You were seeing the bombings going on in Europe at that time.
That's right.
So, yeah. And of course, there was rationing. Currently, people don't have the same, they don't treat war the same way. It doesn't really affect anybody's lives here. But at that time, the butcher, everything was on rations.
Oh, yeah.
Car tires, shoes, clothing.
You were allowed, I think, half a pound a week apiece. So I got a pound of meat a week.
Yeah.
And you could have it in hamburger or chopped up beef or whatever.
And 1 pound isn't very much. I mean, these days they have 1 pound hamburgers, you know, at McDonald's.
No, I think that's what it was. It was we didn't get very much. You had to learn to eat other stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of canned goods.
Probably good and healthy for you.
And it probably was.
Yeah, you say here you learned to like veal too.
Yes, but we were allowed veal because that was a local thing grown.
Uh-huh.
That's a baby sheep.
So you had veal chops, veal roast, veal stew,
right.
Veal shoulder, veal breast.
and no beef.
And you learned to hate veal, it says.
Yeah.
And butter was also rationed, and that's where you
butter
learned about oleo
fresh.
And margarine.
I learned to eat oleo and enjoy it.
Uh-huh.
But it was only poor people before this. Only poor people ate oleo because it was much cheaper than butter.
Yeah.
So when we were forced to eat oleo because there wasn't any butter, I got used to it. Most people didn't, though. It is kind of eating like lard.
Yeah. But the kids liked it because
Well, they didn't know the difference.
No, well, but I mean, you got to squeeze the package to get the coloring in. I remember that there was a little ball of coloring in it.
Right.
And the kids got to squish it around, knead it up until it all was the same. It was great fun. But of course, those were the days too when the milkman still delivered. If you got butter, it'd be, I don't know where you would get it. Would the milkman deliver your one?
Oh, I don't think I ever got butter from the milkman. But I got milk, all kinds of milk and cream.
Uh-huh.
But we were rationed then finally on milk. Quart a day.
Uh-huh.
And they delivered it, put it on the front porch.
Right. What about clothing? Were you okay with clothing?
Well, what you had, there wasn't anything.
You weren't a clothes horse at that time, anyway.
No, I didn't spend money on that.
Okay. But you had us kids dress up. You have a lot of family pictures where we're all dressed up in beautiful I see one here in sailor suits, both Patty and I matching sailor suits, and
Right.
we had dark blue ones and white ones, and
Right.
so and lots of pictures taken at that time. And you were back to Dr. Marshall again, I see, at that time.
Never left, I don't think.
Well, he was back in town, and you were far away when you were at Pleasant Hill.
Well, naturally, if I moved back, it's Grosse Point, I would go back to him, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, and it says here, cute little Patty loved Ray Sullivan. Do you remember Ray Sullivan, tall, dark?
Oh, yes, she was, when Ray came in, she just followed him around. She was about 3 years old.
Uh-huh.
She just thought he was wonderful. He was very young man working at BH.
I liked Ray. I mean, everybody liked. He was a very likable guy.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
why he was a good salesman. I mean, he's
right.
just a great salesman, really. I was eating paper at school, they said. What was that about?
The teacher reported that to me, that you were eating paper. It was a sign that I wasn't giving you enough vitamins at home.
Uh-huh. Well, that's wartime, so, okay. And then, of course, there was the time I pushed Patty out the window because I was mad at her. And she bounced.
She bounced on the
lawn.
No. The window underneath that window had an awning, and she bounced on the awning, and it wasn't that bad a fall. And she didn't seem to bother her.
But maybe that's why she's the way she is now.
Maybe.
Out on the lawn. So, you turned 30 in 1944.
Oh.
During that war, during the wartime, and had a big party. It says. Your 30th birthday party.
Yeah, I had a lot of people from the office. Everybody I knew. Yeah.
And as you said, times were good at that time. Rod had also gone into, and they were your best friends at that time, right? Rod and Eula.
Right.
And he joined the Coast Guard for full-time duty. And off,
right. He was gone.
He was off for the war, for the duration, really. But you talk about the famous dinner in here at the Astor Roof restaurant in New York City where you went to see him off.
Yeah.
You and Eula and Rod and Dick. And
it was
in New York City on the top of one of those hotels.
Right.
$1 cover charge to get in. What did you have? The lobsters and quail and salmon, all for $1 each. It was, and I imagine it was wartime prices, so it was probably those were considered expensive at that time.
Oh yeah, we were, giving him a big send off, and we went to what we considered a special place to eat.
So you were left. Now, Dickie must have spent a lot of time away. I mean, this is a busy time for Detroit. Granted, he got a great position, was being paid well, but did he work night and day, 10, 12-hour days, or not? I know he entertained a lot, so on the weekend he played golf.
He entertained a lot. That was his special. Entertaining customers, and that includes, he had some that he took for lunch.
Uh-huh.
And then took the wives in the evening, and then I was included in it. And we would entertain them by taking them out to dinner. There wasn't anything else to do to entertainment there.
Well, he played golf. That's when he was joined Lockmore.
For a couple, for two couples.
For couples, right.
There wasn't, there isn't anything now, but going out to dinner was big time.
Yeah. People
didn't do that. And so to entertain customer and with his wife, then I got to go along.
So did you start acquiring some fancy clothes?
I don't remember anything about clothes. I mean that I had a problem or I'm sure I didn't buy very much.
I remember a fox, cause I remember it because it had a real fox head and paws on it, a fox stole that you wore.
Probably, I don't remember that.
Well, I think you only gave it up out here in California
Possibly.
in probably the 70s.
That people did wear those things. I probably had one.
Well, of course, we're talking Detroit, and in the wintertime it snows 2 foot deep or 3 foot deep all winter long.
Had to wear boots all winter long.
Yeah.
If you went outside, because you were walking in puddles or snow that's deep.
Yeah. Did the kids ever get to stay home from school because there was too much snow? Get snowed out?
I don't remember it.
Because you were gaining your freedom then. I mean, a couple of years into that, when did Patty start school? She would have started before you left Detroit, in 45 or 46,
no,
and after the war and before
she wasn't, no, when the first school you went to, I remember vividly the house, and it was in San Jose, wasn't it?
No, that I went to, that was Richard in Detroit, in Grosse Pointe.
Oh, in Detroit, yeah.
And she would have gone there too, at least to first grade, second grade.
I don't think she hadn't started school when we moved to Detroit.
Well, maybe that's why she's backward, but I think she really did start school, because when we came out in 1948, I went into the 5th grade, and she was always 2 years behind me, so she would have been going into the 3rd grade then. So she would have gone to Grosse Pointe as well in the 1st and 2nd grade, and kindergarten probably, so 3 years at Richard. 46, 47, 48 probably. But I don't think she remembers that era so much either. I'm sure what she remembers more primarily is Willow Glen Elementary. That's probably vivid in her mind. Good old Willow Glen Elementary in San Jose, in Willow Glen. So
right.
Yeah. Well, that gets us out to California. I'm gonna shut this off now because the Merry Maids should be here if they're coming, and they'll be downstairs. So let's go see if they're in.